It probably won't surprise you to learn that people who follow Dr. Berg are dumb. You would have to be a few eggs short of a dozen to believe a chiropractor moonlighting as an expert on all things health should be trusted. And you would have to be the absolute dullest tool in the shed to believe an individual caught doing this, and this, and this, somehow had a person's best interests at heart. Legions of people blindly follow this guy, despite the fact that, well, he's unqualified to be talking about the subjects he's talking about, and quite frankly, he's just a bad dude. It is very easy to blame the head of a snake for leeching off their followers. Make no mistake, they deserve a lion's share of the blame and derision. However, not enough attention is paid to those who enable their behavior in the first place. These snake oil peddlers and faux experts, they don't exist in a vacuum. The folks supporting their efforts are guilty here as well. With that in mind, I'm Cheyenne Hollis, this is The Touchback, and today we're going to try to answer the question, why are people who follow Dr. Berg so dumb? How am I qualified to even answer that question? Mostly because I did a video a while back about just why this Eric Berg fellow wasn't all he claimed to be. That video has since attracted thousands, more than 1,000 comments from just, I would say, conspiracy theorists, boomers, and other individuals who happily have denied facts in favor of keeping a deranged world view. I mean, this is a first-hand, up-close look at these people just being morons. There's no other way to put it. A question I do get asked a lot is why? Why even bother looking at what Berg does? And now why look at Berg's followers and why they are not so bright? Ultimately, why swim in these swampy waters of stupidity? Personally, it's a matter of doing what's right. Too often, the rational thinking public dismisses these yahoos almost immediately. The problem is these, for lack of a better term, movements are allowed to grow and snowball unchecked because you just have all of these nitwits connecting with each other via the internet to spread their easily disprovable nonsense, all because they listen to someone incorrectly calling himself a doctor. A chiropractor is not a doctor. Going to a school whose curriculum is based on nothing but a bunch of nonsense created by a drunk some 100 years ago does not make you anything. By the way, in all of this, I've said it before and I said it again, had Berg or Alan Mandel or Mindy Plez or any of these other chiropractors not glossed themselves as doctors, I do not make these videos. If tomorrow Berg says, I'm not using the doctor moniker anymore, I'm not going to use the website Knowledge Doc anymore, I'm just going to be Eric Berg, a guy who's passionate about nutrition, I'm not making the video. In fact, I would take it down in that case. Of course, if you can't call yourself a doctor, you're not going to get the same amount of people following you or listening to you. People try to claim, well, it's not about he's a medical doctor or not, but it goddamn is about that, because if he had started as Eric Berg, a guy who's passionate about nutrition, he doesn't have the same number of subscribers or views he has, because there are still countless people who don't understand he's actually not a doctor. Another thing to note, I could care less about what you eat. Be keto, be keto, tomato, eat vegan, eat meat, be carnivore. None of that matters to me here. When a person starts misrepresenting themselves to a group too dumb to understand what is happening here, that is a problem worth talking about. Even if that group does not want to hear what I have to say on the topic. Speaking of things Berg's followers do not want to hear, we all know Berg does not do in-depth research. The people who follow him will claim that he does, but man, he is just going on Google, ripping a headline, seeing a research headline, and then using that to create a video. This, of course, is something I pointed out in my last video when the chiropractor claimed oregano could help treat herpes. That solution only works if you actually use a toxic amount of oregano oil. Probably not a great solution or a great advice to be following. More recently, Berg pretty much exposed his lack of knowledge and lack of understanding of the basic topics and things he does cover in his videos in a video he made trying to debunk a doctor who had debunked them, and now I'm going to use that to debunk this. This is like some weird infinite regression stuff. Not important there. Let's go to the tape though.
This was in 2018, the new guidelines by the American Heart Association, okay? This is brand new. They said total cholesterol is not significantly associated with heart disease. Okay? That's the new finding. We just found out. Looking at your total cholesterol doesn't really give you a lot of information in relationship to predicting heart disease.
So the cornerstone of this video is Dr. Berg saying the American Heart Association said X. They said this thing. The goal here, to me, it's pretty simple. Berg wants to turn his lemmings against respected health organizations who often disagree with his viewpoints in order to have them trust the fake doctor instead. I know this is an effective tactic firsthand because people leave negative comments about how medicine and doctors and organizations like the AHA aren't to be trusted, yet keep watching and we'll see why this is not such a great tactic by Berg.
I don't remember any American Heart Association guidelines saying that it just doesn't associate, period. Here's the 2018 American Heart Association guidelines. Like he said, population studies suggest optimal total cholesterol levels are about 150. Populations with cholesterol in this range manifest low rates of atherosclerotic cardiovascular disease. Nobody's saying it's the best marker, but this is the opposite of what he's saying.
Yep. Here's the passage he's referring to. Oh my God. Generally, no significant association with cardiovascular disease risk. But this document is the science advisory on dietary cholesterol. I think most people understand the difference, but just in case.
All right, so that sounds a little bit staged.
Seriously? You just got exposed for basing a key premise of your entire video off something that never happened, that was never said by the American Heart Association, and you're more concerned with production and this guy potentially staging something? Way to care about what really matters here, man.
But nevertheless, he's absolutely correct. I did make a mistake. The American Heart Association did not say that.
So one of two things happened here. First, either Berg knew exactly what he was doing and also was well aware of the fact that the people who follow him and consume his content would not bother checking whether or not the American Heart Association said this or not. The second possibility is that he has no idea of what he's really talking about, saw some words he believed helped support his argument, didn't do enough research, and just simply rolled with it. Either way, how does Eric Berg get himself out of this jam?
They did say that the dietary cholesterol is not associated with cardiovascular risk. However, if you take a look at this paper in 2018 entitled LDL Cholesterol Does Not Cause Cardiovascular Disease, a comprehensive review of the current literature under Section 2, does high cholesterol cause atherosclerosis? And in summary, no association between total cholesterol and degree of atherosclerosis, that stuff that clogs up your arteries. So Gil's point is correct. American Heart Association did not say that, but another paper did say that.
Seriously? Really? You're going to retroactively go out and find a study that does support what you said in this old video? You don't even tell us who the study's from, by the way, or why we should care about the study or why this study matters. You also never apologize to your viewers or to the American Heart Association for basically just lying. I mean, you can phrase this however you want to say. You can say it was a mistake, whatever the case may be. You were dead freaking wrong here, and you don't even have the decency to apologize and admit this grotesque error that you made a cornerstone of your video. You literally said, this is what the American Heart Association says, and then you went on to explain why it was wrong, even though they never said that. Jeez, man, come on. This is just the tip of the iceberg here, people. The not so good doctor has churned out hundreds, if not thousands of videos doing these same kinds of mistakes. Either he doesn't understand the topics that he's covering, he doesn't understand the research he's pulling from, or he's purposely trying to misrepresent and misuse information in order to support his own conclusions. Whatever avenue you want to believe, neither is good. Unfortunately, Berg is such a prolific content creator that he has tapped into something known as the cramming 10 pounds of shit into a 5-pound bag phenomenon. That is when a person produces so much information, a follower will just blindly accept it all because separating fact from fiction would just become too time consuming. No one could ever go out and point out every mistake. So essentially, you either have to accept everything or ignore everything. Those who do happen to point out Berg's mistakes are then left to deal with his numerous vast army of bots, trolls, and morons who are willing to start a flame war with anyone who is able to show where Berg was wrong. This group is freaking ridiculous, man. When you look at the flock of Berg, at least based on, like I said, the 1,300 plus comments left on my video, you find that his lemmings, his followers, whatever you want to call them, they sort of break up into 6 main categories here. There's some overlap in categories, like you'll find people who maybe fit into 2 different tendency groups. Every person in one of these different groups does share a few characteristics. Namely, they are gullible, they are easy to manipulate, and they would not believe the truth if it came up and punched them in the face. You could tell them the sun was hot, and they would say, no, it wasn't because Eric Berg didn't tell me it was hot. It's not just my video, by the way. I'm going to use examples from the comment section in my video, but if you go to any video criticizing Eric Berg, there is likely to be thousands of comments from his idiot followers, and they almost always break into one of these 6 categories. The first group is what I like to call college freshman geniuses. These are those people who maybe know 1 or 2 facts and think that makes them the smartest person in the room and that there's no debating them because they already know everything, like your typical college freshman. These folks try to present themselves as rational actors using common sense to defend their beloved Berg. In reality, they completely ignore valid criticisms and prattle on about the 1 or 2 facts they have memorized before scatting around to other topics. They absolutely cannot get enough of ending their comments with a shrouded insult in the form of a question. How are you making the world a better place? What are you doing? What am I doing? Well, for starters, I'm not making videos on things the American Heart Association never said. The second group is conspiracy theorists. It should come as no surprise to anyone that Berg's lemmings really love themselves a good conspiracy theory. There is your usual nonsense. Doctors are bad. You can't trust mainstream medicine. Anything relating to what they call the jab. The most ludicrous conspiracy this group prattles on about is me being paid by Big Pharma or the pharmaceutical industry. These people think $1 billion industry is paying a low-level, small-time YouTube channel to make a video discrediting Eric Berg. Why would they not? I don't know. Pay a YouTuber with a bigger reach. Why would they not? I don't know, pay their lawyers who they pay millions of dollars to every year to go do something better, or lobbyists, or any number of answers out there. Why they would pay me with my 1,000 followers to discredit Eric Berg, it's preposterous, it's ludicrous. It doesn't, if you sit down and think about that for 1 second, it makes no sense. And you know what the thing is if you don't believe me, I will happily privately send you redacted bank statements to show you that no, I am not being paid by Big Pharma because $1 billion industry isn't paying small-time YouTube channels. Even if I did send them the bank statements, though, they wouldn't believe me anyway. They would say they're doctored or phony, or it's you're just dealing with a group that's so brainwashed that it doesn't really matter what evidence you prove. They're going to immediately find some sort of flaw with it. But, I mean, if you want to see them, I'll provide them to you. The third group of people who try to defend Berg are what I call the Berg's rubber and your glue crowd. What I mean by that is they really don't have a leg to stand on when faced with the truth, and instead of making up some sort of irrational plan or structure or anything like that to try to defend Berg's honor or whatever they think they're doing, they'll just resort to really juvenile basic insults. It really just boils down to Berg is rubber, you're glue, whatever you say bounces off him and sticks to you. This group tends to go down one of two paths. The first path is really just criticizing the number of subscribers or views I have. It's a really simple, just bad argument to make, but it's what they're going to pursue anyway. Really, the gist of what they say is I must be wrong because I have fewer subscribers and fewer views than Eric Berg. Yeah, that's cool, but if something is true, it doesn't really matter how many subscribers or views a video has. If a view on ice being warm had 1 million views and a video on ice being cold had 3 views, are you telling me the ice is warm video is right? No, absolutely not. It's stupidity. The second path they love going down is to ignore everything, every fact mentioned, and just straight up call me a hater or straight up call me jealous. I did an entire video on why calling someone a hater is just the stupidest thing you can do, and if you would like to watch it, you can do so right there. But I'm just going to stress the most important takeaway from that video. The moment you call someone saying something that is true a hater, you are hating on them. You are literally doing the same thing you are saying someone else is doing, despite the fact what they are saying is true and what you are saying is nonsense. Do not call a person a hater, especially if what they're saying has happened. The fourth group, and the one I really understand the least, is a collection of Christians who believe Berg is heaven sent to spread the gospel of readily available diet advice to the world. Oh yeah, by the way, Berg just happens to be a Scientologist who treats his son poorly and also forces his employees to accept his religion. Look, I don't care what religion you practice, your deity or deities are going to give a big thumbs down to that type of behavior. I mean, I've read the Bible a time or two in my life, and I guess I just completely missed that section where Jesus Christ met Xenu and they agreed we should all praise fake doctors who spread misinformation on social media. I don't even really know what to say about this group. It absolutely baffles me that there are people who somehow thinks this is actually a real thing, that this is happening. I mean, like, my brain is literally overheating right now at the level of stupidity here. The fifth group are just those obvious marks. The people who just come, they'll say some wild, patently untrue thing about what Eric Berg has done for them in their life. These range from being tame, stuff like, Berg's changed my life, to just flat out crap. Berg has saved me thousands of dollars in ER visits. Berg has helped me lose 1,000 pounds and now I can bench press a small car. Yeah, sure, okay, I bet you can. No. Have you ever noticed that anytime someone is trying to do something unsavory on YouTube or really just in the internet in general, we'll have comments for marks like this? We talked about this a little bit in our reviews or comments left on dating scammer websites. So yeah, like, it doesn't matter the genre here. Every person trying to scam someone out of money has commenters like these marks promoting just ridiculous claims. By the way, the entire chiropractic field is more or less built on marks being paid to say things that just aren't true about how a chiropractor helped them. The final group here are trolls or fake accounts professing some sort of undying love for what Eric Berg does, usually leaving that comment in all cap locks. Some of these accounts just happen to be created on the same exact day they leave a comment on my video supporting the chiropractor. Come on, people, this information is not difficult to find, by the way. Like, every YouTube account has the date when it's created. I don't really understand what is the goal here. I suppose it's his followers not wanting to reveal their true identity, or maybe it's just part of his bot army there, again, just trying to spam my video with negative comments. All of these groups are bad, but what really gets me is how that everyone, regardless of what group they reside in, think that being in some echo chamber somehow makes them right. That because there aren't thousands of people against Dr. Berg, that they have to be victorious. It's almost as if they have never considered the fact that maybe a person who thinks rationally doesn't want to get into an argument with a dummy on the internet over something that is easily disprovable. In fact, most people at a baseline of intelligence would never bother looking for a chiropractor giving out nutritional advice. They do not want it because they know it's bad. These people love claiming they are in the majority, that they are the ones who are not only smarter than everyone else, but that they are the majority of the population here. Well, I hate to tell you this, but you know what other groups thought they were in the majority? All those folks following William Jeffs, the Branch Davidians. And how did that turn out for those majorities? Yeah, not well. To think Eric Berg, a man who is proven to not actually care about people, has your best interests at heart is absolutely ridiculous. He's here for your money, whether that comes in the form of views or buying his overpriced products. And in order to get that paper, he'll say whatever it takes. He'll cajole people into believing that medicine is this false us versus them narrative. He doesn't care about your health. He cares about your money, and health is how he gets in your pocket. Back to the original question of this video, why are people who follow Eric Berg so dumb? So very, very dumb. Honestly, the more I've thought about it, the more I've come to realize he just happened to be at the right place at the right time to tap in to the world's growing willingness to be stupid. There have always been morons roaming the earth, don't get me wrong, but over the past decade, with the internet expanding and more accessible than ever before, these people can unite and champion dunces. We live in a world where anyone with a camera and an internet connection can pass themselves off as some sort of nutritional expert or medical expert or health expert or whatever expert they want to be. And when they do that, there will always be a readily available audience of people willing to believe them despite the fact that they're just a person with a camera and no real information. That is my biggest takeaway from all of this, by the way. Berg's followers, they don't really care about his advice. I mean, it's part of the whole charade, but it's not the end-all be-all. Instead, these dummies, they just want the feeling of being right. They want to be a part of something bigger because in most cases, their lives are pretty meaningless. It is, of course, a pointless and dangerous mindset. The people who support Berg were stupid before he came along. Now, they just have a figure to unite and rally behind. You know, I realize few, if any, of Berg's followers will have made it to this section of the video. In fact, I'm assuming they watched 10 seconds, left a snotty comment, and then disappeared into the ether. But if you have made it to this point, I want to ask yourself a very important question. Who really has your best interests at heart? Is it an individual proven on multiple occasions to show disdain for those trusting him while simultaneously asking you for something? Or is it the person who doesn't really care what you do, assuming you aren't getting scammed by someone pretending to be something they are not? I don't know. I can't answer that question for you, but it is one worth, well, hopefully thinking about. That does it for me. I am Cheyenne Hollis. This is The Touchback, and as always, hashtag take it out to the 25.